Thank you so much for being here with us today. Um, just let everybody join and we will start in just a minute. So, hello everybody. Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're delighted to have you here with us for this webinar, From Evidence to Action, Disseminating the State of the World's Nursing Report and Advancing Policy Dialogue. We're really lucky and so grateful to be joined by our esteemed colleagues from the World Health Organization, Dr. Kerry McCarthy and Bruna Moreno. We also have some of our wonderful Challenges Committee members. We have Andres and Shazia, who are the hub leads for the Eastern Mediterranean and the European region, and they'll be helping us out with the Q&A and closing remarks a little bit later on in the session. My name is Hannah. I'm the Director of External Relations for the Nursing Now Challenge. Unfortunately, our Programme Director, Professor Aisha Holloway, couldn't be here with us today, but she has sent us a short message, so we're going to play that for you now.
Hi everyone. I'm sorry I can't be with you today. I have some other commitments that I have to take care of, but just wanted to say hello. Welcome to our wonderful speakers today, Dr. Carrie McCarthy from WHO and her other colleagues from the regions, Bruna and I, who are wonderful nurses colleagues together. These three individuals across the WHO organisation have been fundamental in our State of the World's Nursing Report 2025. And we are delighted to welcome them here today to share with us some of the most important elements of where we go next. And as Nursing Now Challenge was very much part of that report, Burdett Trust particularly, who fund our programme. But for you as a community, you saw us launch the report and with colleagues in London and across the globe in our regions, supported by our WHO colleagues. And now we're asking you to step up our social movement, our nursing movement, to understand how we can drive change. How can we implement the State of the World's Nursing Report? And we're going to have to do that through our mobilisation, our action, our driving forward conversations, policy dialogue. So our colleagues are here to talk to us about how do we advance policy dialogue? How do we take that report to our policymakers, to our influencers, to our wider nursing colleagues and foster that togetherness, that movement together of what is required for us to see change in investment in nursing, advancing many areas. And hopefully they will mention a little bit about the SDNM because there are 5 additional policy priorities in there that are very timely for us. So I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you so much to my wonderful colleagues here at Nursing Now Challenge, but also to Carrie, Bruna and I. We are grateful for your support, your collaboration and your time today to help us share with the rest of our nursing, midwifery, student, early career community, and hopefully we will be able to have some impact. Take care, enjoy.
Wonderful. Oh, thank you so much, Aisha. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Kerry. Over to you.
Thanks, Hannah. Hello, everyone. It's great to be with you again. We really appreciate the collaboration and close partnership with Nursing Now and Nursing Now Challenge now. So as Hannah said, I'm going to go over a bit of some information about the State of the World's Nursing Report, why we did it, a bit about how we did it, what the findings are, and then really focus in on how you can use those findings, what the intention is for making policy change and ultimately strengthening nursing policies and aligning with nursing's contribution with the national health goals of the countries and regions that you're in. So I'm going to share a presentation and let's see. Hannah, just confirm for me that that's full screen.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to go over a bit of the context for why we did the Sailor Rules Nursing Report, what's in it, and then what are the main policy implications and policy relevant actions that can be taken at a country or sub-regional level. And as Hannah and Aisha mentioned, we're really grateful for the support from the Burdett Trust for Nursing that contributed to make this report happen. So basically, we always talk about this paradigm that we call data dialogue and decision making, because the purpose of the report is really not to sit on a shelf, but the purpose of the State of the World's Nursing, whether it was 2020 or 2025, is in order to drive change and policy action. And the premise is that basically if we have strong, robust, country validated data, which we only get through having broad engagement with stakeholders and partners in country, we have that engagement, we have that data. That data is the foundation for policy dialogue, intersectoral policy dialogue from across different sectors and stakeholder groups. And that dialogue with the country validated data is the basis for decision making about where and how to invest in nursing to strengthen it. So that decision making is around where those investments happen in nursing, education, employment, working conditions, that sort of thing, because we know those investments in health workers, and particularly in nursing and midwifery workers, that we can actually drive progress, not just in the health-related SDG, which is 3, but if we're investing in having policy action around nursing midwifery education, that drives SDG 4. Around gender, by employing and educating women, who are the majority of those workforces, that's SDG 5, and gender. Investing in working conditions, regulations, and safety, that improves working conditions and inclusive economic growth, which is another one of the SDGs. So we know that we can, with these investments and policy actions in nursing and midwifery, drive these changes. So we kind of go back to then, how do we generate the data, the dialogue, and the decision making? And this is a paradigm that we've seen play out in the past. Basically, in 2020, which is the year of the nurse and the midwife, which was a strong partnership with Nursing Now and ICN and ICM and WHO. We had that broad engagement that really allowed for the strongest data ever on nursing midwifery workforces in the State of the World's Nursing Report, and that was coming through in 2020 for the State of the World's Midwifery 2021. And those data, that strong evidence base, supported policy dialogue in the Year of the Nurse and the Midwife at the World Health Assembly. This is the Princess from Jordan, who was speaking as an invited guest at the opening of the World Health Assembly in 2020 to open that dialogue on health workers and nurses and midwives in particular. And that led to a decision for the very first time from the World Health Assembly to request WHO to develop these strategic directions for nursing and midwifery. And they requested the WHO develop that, which we did. And then the following World Health Assembly, they adopted it with a resolution to urge all countries and all stakeholders to advance the strategic directions for nursing and midwifery. So that was a really big deal. Never happened before. And it gave a really clear global mandate for these are the policy directions that we should all be going towards. And that's in order to achieve those SDGs. So we had a really clear mandate for what the policies should be for strengthening nursing and midwifery, the policy directions. So these are those policy directions. They're essentially 4 key areas: education, jobs, leadership, and service delivery. And there are specific policy directions in each one. For leadership, for example, since this is a group of early career nurses and future leaders, I'll mention that the leadership policy priority, for example, is around developing that senior nursing midwifery leader, like the chief nursing and chief midwifery officer in a country, but then also developing the next generation of leaders, so investing in national nursing leadership programs. In other areas, that education and jobs are really about the levels of education, the number of graduates, the quality of the education programs, and supporting faculty. And in jobs, it's about planning for the nursing workforce, looking forward, ensuring there are enough jobs for nurses, increasing the number of jobs for nurses in a country, managing migration of nurses and midwives, and also recruitment and retention. And then the service delivery area, that is really around professional regulation, So having scope of practice, licensure, continuing professional development, a regulatory body even to begin with, and the capacity of those regulators. And then the work environment, making sure that is safe and supportive for nurses and midwives. So these are those 12 policy priorities that the World Health Assembly adopted and all of the WHO member states agreed to. So this is what we've been working on since 2021, supporting countries to advance these policy areas. And we've been also doing monitoring. That was part of the resolution, was that WHO monitor and report back to the World Health Assembly about these 12 policy priorities. So we did monitoring in 2020. 23, 24, we did various monitoring exercises with the government chief nursing midwifery officers as well as additional stakeholders. So we saw that there was a lot of implementation in all 12 of those policy areas. You can see that from the bar graph on the left, which is still the color coding from the prior screen. So you can see there was over 75% in almost all of the areas, with the exception of international migration, which is about adhering to the WHO Global Code of Practice on international recruitment of health personnel, including nurses and midwives. And that was the lowest amount of countries as reported by the nursing midwifery leaders about implementation of that. We also saw that the strategic directions was being used for national level planning, which is great. That's the pie chart on the right. So these were in 2023, 2024. But we're at a different period now, right? We're at the global pandemic is behind us for the most part, we hope. And we have 5 years left in the Sustainable Development Agenda. So we really wanted to have another State of the World's Nursing Report to make sure that we understand what the global, regional, and national nursing workforces look like. And that is really to facilitate that planning, to make sure there are enough nurses, there are enough nursing students, there are enough faculty, there's enough nurses where they're needed. So we really wanted to have the State of the World's Nursing data again for that, as well as to inform that decision making that we talked about at the country level, but also at the global level, because the strategic directions were to expire in 2025. And if the World Health Assembly was going to make another decision about what to do to guide nursing and midwifery workforce policy, they needed updated evidence also to know what to do with respect to the global strategic directions for nursing and midwifery. So I'm going to let you know why. So that's sort of why we did the State of the World's Nursing 2025. Basically, what it comprises is what we call the main report, and that has all the data and the evidence at the global level and at the regional level. We also did a number of, and those data and analyses and findings are using globally standardized indicators for health workers, and specifically reporting on nurses. And these are indicators that all countries use to report on their health workers. And so all that data is presented on a large set of indicators reflecting jobs, education, working conditions, leadership. And then there are also a bunch of boxes and features on these areas that are really important to nursing, but not reflected in the globally standardized indicators. So we have really these deep dives on advanced practice nursing, migration, technology, mental health, nurses in the climate agenda, faculty, conflict, all these areas that you see and more listed there. And then on the basis of that strong quantitative and qualitative evidence, we have the policy priorities for the 2026-2030 period, as well as detailed annex about all the methods for developing all the analyses. So that's in the main report, which is on our website. In there, we also have an area that we call the regional pages, which is where all the data from the different graphs and tables and everything about each region are consolidated in one place. So you can go and find all the information, for example, about the European region, which is up there, and all this data specific to that region. And then for every WHO member state, we have a country profile, which is their data that they reported to us reflected back in this country profile. And those are downloadable. They're in each language, official language of the country, so that they can be pulled off the web, printed, used for the kind of discussion and policy dialogue, as well as other uses in a national setting. So that's what's in the report. I'm giving you just a little peek here of more in depth of what a country profile looks like. It has all of the qualitative, the yes/no indicators on the left. It has the information about the nursing stock, the density, the age and gender distribution of the country, the facility ownership, the mobility or reliance on foreign-born nurses, wages, and then education information on the right there. So this is what every country has in their own national languages. And so so that's kind of what they look like. And then I'll go over a little bit of what some of the main findings are. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because hopefully you will go into the report and see what's of interest to you. But when we talk about like using and leveraging the SoWN data and the evidence, I want to give you a sense of what some of the really main messages are. And basically in the area of jobs, these are all organized according to the strategic directions areas. So in the area of jobs, we saw that the global number of nurses is about 30 million, and that has increased. So we've seen global growth in the global number of nurses since 2020 of about 2 million. And while overall we saw growth, there were a lot of countries that actually didn't see growth in that period. So what we saw was, if you look at that graph on the right, you can see the density of nurses, and the average is 37.1 nurses per 10,000 persons. But the graph on the right shows countries that are above that, which is blue, and below that, which are pink and red. So you can see that there's really stark differences. There's a lot of dark blue and a lot of dark red. So there's really high differences, at least 5 times difference in density between, for example, Europe and Africa. So that's a big and widening discrepancy that we're seeing there. We did see a decrease in the shortage of nurses. For example, in 2020, the global shortage was 6.2 million, and now it's 5.8 million for 2023. So we are seeing that decrease in the shortage. However, if we look forward, not all countries experience or regions experience a decrease in the shortage, and actually that shortage is getting increasingly consolidated in only 2 regions. So by 2030, when we'll have an even larger global nursing workforce, we're going to have the shortage is going to be still 4.1 million, and 70% of that is going to be in only 2 regions. So the message here is really like, while we had growth at the global level, we had really increasing disparities in the distribution and the density of nurses by region, and really strongly by country income classification. So that's a big issue, because these countries that are not having the growth and are seeing it in their nursing personnel are going to have a hard time even being able to provide basic health services. So we were not going to achieve any of the SDGs with that situation continuing. If we look a little more about jobs, like the demographics of nurses, they're mostly 80% professional, which relates to their scope of work in the professional environment. We have the age on the graph here on the right, and we have about a third of nurses, 33%, who are younger than 35, so early career nurses, as opposed to almost 20% that are close to retirement, so 55 and older. So that's on the global level, that's good. As you can see on the graph on the right, though, it's really different by region. Some regions have a really large early career population, and some have a larger population that is older nurses. There are actually 20 countries that have more older nurses than ones that are entering the profession. So that means different things for planning your workforce. If you have an older workforce, you really need to work on retaining those workers, ensuring there's mentorship of younger nurses, and ensuring there's enough nurses coming into the education pipeline. Whereas if you have a lot younger nursing population, you want to there's different policy and planning considerations there, which we'll kind of get to in the education sector. But still overwhelmingly female, 85%. And interestingly, when we looked at migration, we saw that about 1 in 7 nurses is working in a country other than where they were born. And this was really different by income group. So in high income countries, almost a quarter of the workforce was foreign born, whereas in low and lower middle income countries, it was 1% in low income countries and 8% in low or middle income countries. So a big difference there in terms of reliance on foreign born nurses. In education, we saw an increase in the graduation rate in countries that were having a shortage that we found in 2020. So that is good, but overall, the number of graduates per population is still highest in high-income countries and lowest in low-income countries. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to change those numbers that we saw in terms of the lower density of nurses in low-income countries. Education, there's majority is a 3 or 4 year education, and that's the graph on the right. And we looked at a quality assurance mechanisms, and we saw a high level of accreditation of countries within countries, but some areas were not as high, like requirements for interprofessional education, so nurses with other health professions, and content in the education curricula on social determinants of health, which we know is really important if you're taking a primary healthcare lens to supporting the health and well-being of your population. In service delivery, again, this is professional regulations and working conditions. You'll see a number of professional regulations listed in the report, and those are overwhelmingly in place for nursing. Nursing advanced practice roles were present in 60% of countries, which is an increase from a little more than 50 last year. In terms of the protections around the working conditions, there's about 15 or 20 of them, which are in the report. And a lot of those were in place in terms of on the workplace environment, social protections, and that sort of thing. But there was only 60% of countries that had protections from attack in the workplace, and only a little more than 40% said there were supports and services and packages for mental well-being of nurses. So that's pretty low, given that we know how stressful and taxing the occupation has been. We also looked at wages for nurses, and you can see on the graph on the right, that's wages standardized for purchasing power parity, and is really discrepant based on income category. High income countries have twice as high of a purchasing power parity as upper middle income countries, and 3 times higher than low income countries. And there was a really big difference in the standardized US dollar for nursing wages. You can see it's 5 times higher in Europe than in Africa. And then in leadership, we looked at those 2 policy priorities specifically of how many countries have that senior level chief nurse, and we saw 80%, which is higher than in 70% in 2020, or the SoWN report in 2020. And then we also saw growth in leadership development programs, but we saw a really big difference between the availability of national leadership development programs by income category. So in high-income countries, 80% of high-income countries had a leadership development program, but there was only 25% of low-income countries had that leadership development program. And so then this is some of the high level findings of the report. Again, there's so much detail and so many graphs and deep dives in the report, but no matter what category we looked at in education and employment and working conditions and leadership, we saw that while we had improvement at the global level, when you look by region or by income category, these differences were getting larger. So we have increasing inequity in so many of these areas. And these inequities are really going to slow progress towards universal health coverage and other sustainable development goals. So what this evidence and data showed to us is that the policy priorities of the global strategic directions are still very much relevant for the next period. We need to keep working on those. In the report, we actually gave specific areas of emphasis for the next period of within those 12 policy priorities I showed you, what are the areas that we need to focus on? And then the other conclusion is really to use the State of the World's Nursing Report to drive this policy dialogue, push for decision-making and investments and policy actions that are going to move a country towards their health priorities and towards universal health coverage overall. So that leaves this as sort of the global policy agenda, those 12 areas of the global strategic directions in education, jobs, leadership, and service delivery. And then additionally, it was clear from the qualitative and the quantitative evidence that there are 5 other areas that Aisha mentioned that are focus areas for the 2026-2030 period. And those areas are strengthening and furthering advanced practice nursing, harnessing the potential of digital health technologies, advancing gender equity, in enhancing the role of nurses in the climate agenda and supporting with tailored support to nurses working in fragile, vulnerable, and conflict settings. So these are the 5 additional areas that we really need to be working towards in a concerted effort in countries and regions. So what we're working on now then is really taking forward this work with countries. At the last World Health Assembly, when they decided, oh, I forgot to mention this. So the data of the State of the World's Nursing Report 2025 preceded this decision by the World Health Assembly to extend the global strategic directions for nursing and midwifery. So the World Health, that's one of these decisions here on the left. In 2025, the World Health Assembly met and decided, looked at the data and the reporting from WHO and decided to extend the global strategic directions for nursing midwifery. So it is our continued mandate, those 12 policy priorities and the additional data from the State of the World's Nursing Report, that's our mandate through 2030. At that World Health Assembly, they also had a major resolution about supporting health and care workers and also looking closely at region by region to advance further the global code of practice on migration of health workers. So we have this really big global mandate on health and care workers overall, a specific one on migration, and another specific one on nursing midwifery. So that is why WHO in this period and ongoing, we are working with countries through our regional offices and WHO country offices to support that data dialogue decision-making process. So that engagement at a country level, broad engagement, including early career nurses, young nurse leaders, in that engagement that uses the data, State of the World's nursing data, broader level data from a country to have that policy dialogue, intersectoral policy dialogue that's with health and with education and with gender and with youth and with civil society and finance, international relations, all those aspects coming together for dialogue and decision making around what are the policy actions that need to happen. And the policy actions and the investments should align with the global strategic directions for nursing and midwifery and in the context of national health workforce planning and national health goals. So that's the process we really believe in. We're working closely with countries to drive. And that's some of the examples of that happening this year, and the planning we're doing for next year is what the next portion of the discussion is going to be. We have one of my colleagues who leads nursing and midwifery at the Regional Office of the Americas, or PAHO, Dr. Bruno Moreno, who is here. We also had a plan from my other colleague who is the focal point for nursing and midwifery in the Southeast Asia region, because these regions, as well as the others, are active in supporting, working with countries to arrange these policy dialogues that the country would like to have. And so we invited them to share a little bit of their perspectives on how the planning is going, how the countries themselves are sort of mobilizing, what's the impetus to discuss nursing, and then also speak a bit about how that engagement includes early career nurses and what their perspectives and what their experiences are in engaging early career nurses in those discussions. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Hannah. And I have just a few minutes for questions if you want me to stay on, Hannah, and then I'll hand over to the other speakers.
Is that okay? I know you have to go. Okay. Oh, thank you, Kerry. That was, I mean, an incredibly comprehensive overview, and just what an amazing tool the State of the World's Nursing Report is. So yeah, really was so grateful for Kerry's time. We don't have very long left, but does anybody have any questions? Maybe we could just take a couple from the audience before we move on. You are free to unmute yourself or raise your hand. Andres, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. McCarthy, for your presentation. I think it has really helped us to understand this global perspective. And I would like to ask you a question or a couple of questions that are related to this global perspective. What do you think as a global health worker or technical officer in the WHO, what do you think should be the first priority? Imagine that you are the DG of the WHO or a big international organization. What do you think should be the first priority? Just pick one of these priorities that you have shared with us. What would you like to focus on first?
Thanks, Andres. That is difficult. And if I were speaking as WHO, or like you said, if I were the DG, there couldn't possibly be one that I would choose to say focus only on creating more jobs, because it really depends on what's the situation in terms of employment and retention and graduates and that sort of thing, or to pick education over working conditions. It really has to be driven by the country context, and that's what I think Bruna can share directly, is how the country decides that they want to focus and they want to look at their data and they need to identify what their priorities are, because it's so dependent on the country context. And that's why the strategic directions in the State of the World's Nursing Evidence is really broad in a sense, because we want countries to be able to find their priorities within those 12 policy priorities in the 5 additional areas. They should be able to find their issue in there and use that then to justify the policy direction, the policy investment in those areas. So it's never, it always has to be from, as WHO, and we work on behalf of and for our member states. So it really has to be their identification of, in our country, this is our issue, or these are our issues. And then we support them to develop their policies and their actions according to how they want to address those challenges. So our number one priority is always to support the member states in that process, without necessarily telling them what is our priority for it. It's based on their country context.
Okay, thank you. I think there's another question from our Priscilla.
Yeah, Priscilla, please unmute yourself. Priscilla, can you hear us? If you unmute yourself, you're very welcome to ask a question.
Okay. My name is Priscilla, and I'm from Uganda. And what issues are these result of the first world and second world? So how can we argue in Africa? What would be our main priorities given the statistics?
Priscilla, I'm so sorry. I certainly can't hear you very clearly. Would it be possible for you to put your question in the chat box, and we'll share it with Kerry? Kerry, I don't want to take up your time. I know you have to leave.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I couldn't hear you, Priscilla. And yeah, if you put in the chat, I'll work on responding. I do need to pop off. Is there anything that you see, Hannah, that you want to pose to me?
No, that's okay. We'll share any questions with you afterwards, Kerry. I don't want to hold you up, but thank you so very much for joining us this afternoon. It was really wonderful, and yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Hannah. Thank you, Andres. Priscilla, sorry, and I'll look forward to hearing your question. Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Kerry. Yeah, so without further ado, let's come to Dr. Bruna Moreno to hear about everything that's been going on in the Americas region.
Okay, so first of all, thank you, Nursing Now Challenge, for the invitation. It's an honor to take part in this webinar and to greet everyone that has joined us today. So, from the perspective of the region of the Americas, how countries are using the State of Work Nursing report. So this report has been especially useful to generate evidence, to support advocacy, and to propose concrete actions to strengthen nursing. So, sorry, at the national level, the data have been enabled accurate diagnostics to identify the gaps in education, employment, leadership, and services. They have also supported the development of the National Nursing Development Plans. So several countries are working in their national nursing strategic plans. They are using this data, this clear data for actions aimed to strengthen, to expanding education, creating jobs, and enhancing the professional recognition. The countries such as Colombia, Uruguay, Barbados, and the Bahamas are working on developing or updating their national nursing plans. Also, this evidence is crucial for strengthening leadership, and we are seeing growth of the role of government chief nursing and midwifery officers positions. In the Caribbean, for instance, the role of the CNO is well established. And they have, in several countries, in most of the countries, they have executive roles alongside with the ministers of health. However, in the Latin America countries, there is still they are still progressing to incorporate this role, the government chief nurse and midwifery officers role. But we have the example of Chile that has created the CNO role, and in September they have also created another role that's the CMO, the Chief Midwifery Officer. So they have now these two professionals that are working together in order to develop their strategic plan, their national guidelines to strengthen nursing and midwifery in Chile. Also, we identify that we are now in a strategic window of opportunity, not only because of the publication of the State Words Nursing Report, but also because of the extension of the Global Strategic Interactions for Nursing and Midwifery, as Carrie just mentioned. These strategic interactions were extended until 2030. So this reinforce countries' commitments to the nursing and midwifery workforce. And also in the region of the Americas, we have been using all this evidence to drive nursing policy dialogues, bring together governments, academia, the civil society, and also young leaders. So, what are these why these policy dialogues are important? So, this policy dialogue also present us some ideas of this policy dialogue and also the theory of change. The policy dialogue is a crucial space where governments, universities, professional associations, and leaders meet to discuss evidence and to make joint decisions to identify policy priorities and to strengthen commitment in actions to strengthen nursing and midwifery workforce. In the region of the Americas, we have the example of Uruguay, which held a policy dialogue in 2022, and this process generated plans that remain active today, strengthening nursing leadership and allowing the creation of a nursing position with Ministry of Health. It also boosted the movement. They have the movement Nursing 2030, which works with parliamentaries, health professionals, civil society, and other main stakeholders to advance nursing in their country. Also, we are now preparing to implement this policy dialogue process in Chile and Mexico, and also we have other countries that have expressed their interest to implement this process, this policy dialogue process, such as Honduras. And also for the sub-regional level in the Caribbean, with the support of PAHO and the WHO, we are working with the regional nursing body on a sub-regional strategic plan for nursing and midwifery that will be developed in order to reflect the common priorities and the local context in the Caribbean countries. So these processes are significant because they help address the major nursing workforce challenges. Also, they allow us to align these priorities with the regional and global frameworks. We have the PAHO's policy on the health workforce 2030, and also the global frameworks, the State of Work Nursing Report, and the strategic directions for nursing and midwifery. So we have in our audience today some early career nurses, and what you can do to support this movement. So we expect earlier career nurses to bring fresh perspectives and innovative ideas to the challenges that we have in the nursing and health systems. We understand that young professionals represent the voice of the younger generation. They will ensure us that policies reflect their needs, their expectations. Also, this is essential because we must understand the demands of young professionals so that nursing remains attractive and sustainable. And we have data, we have evidence that show us, specifically for the region of the Americas, that we have decrease of the nursing graduates, and also we have for some countries a part of the workforce that will retire in the next 10 years. So we need to prepare the health systems to replace this workforce and to ensure that also we have the challenge of the shortage of professionals. So we need to consider all these dimensions, all these perspectives in order to invest in nursing, in order to have a profession that is recognized, that ensure good working conditions, and that is attractive for young people, and also to consolidate the future generation of professionals. So we expect that more than observes, you nurses should act as protagonists. So you should actively engage in the advocacy process for the profession and contribution to decisions that shape the health workforce. And how young nurses positions themselves can be informed and engaged. So I would suggest to you, one suggestion is that you need to stay informed through key workforce documents report at the national, regional, and global levels. Also, it's essential to participate actively in student and professional associations, and also in regional and international nursing networks. So, in the region of the Americas, there are multiple spaces for engagement. We have several international nursing networks. We have the regional nursing body in the Caribbean. We have the Central American and the Caribbean Professional Nurses Group. At our end at PAHO, we have the ANF Americas list served, which circulates a bi-weekly newsletter with opportunities, events, documents, and also have the Community of Practice. That's a platform for exchange experience, knowledge, and opportunities. Also, another strategy is to seek complementary training in leadership, in evidence use, in public policy, in health policy, in global health issues. So these skills are key skills that we will need to strengthen health systems and services. Also, it's equally important to establish dialogue with mentors, with faculty members, with nursing leaders, in order to identify and to learning from different perspectives and also opportunities. And finally, you are very familiar with the digital platforms, with social media. So use this space to share your knowledge, to share your experience, to exchange experience, and also to amplify the collective voice of nursing. So I believe that the State of Words Nursing report is more than a report. It's a call to action. So in different spaces and from different stakeholders, we expect to work together in investments in education, in jobs, leadership, service delivery. Uh, and by investing in nursing workforce, we are ensuring health systems that are more fair, strong and resilient. Countries in the region of the Americas are already using this evidence to create nursing, national nursing plans, and also to expand their leadership roles and to shape policies for the future workforce. But also the success of this efforts also depends on your voices as earlier career nurses and young leaders. So you are not only the future of a nurse, you are the present. Your ideas, your energy are essential to drive the health system's transformation. And I do believe that together we can ensure that nursing enhances its contributions to more equitable and accessible health systems and services so all people can achieve better health outcomes. So thank you for your attention, and I remain at disposal to comments and questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bruno. What a wonderful presentation, and absolutely fantastic to hear about all the activity in your region, and those tips there for our early career members will be so useful. And actually that reminds me just to say, please everybody remember that this session will be recorded and saved on our YouTube channel, so please feel free to share it with your colleagues and friends. We are going to head over to a Q&A session, which will be moderated by our wonderful Shazia, who is the hub lead for the Eastern Mediterranean region of our Challenges Committee. But before we get into the questions, I can see lots popping up in the chat, which is fantastic. We actually had a question for you. So we wanted to know, since the launch of the State of the World's Nursing Report earlier this year, have any of you been involved in any national level discussions, any national planning meetings, policy dialogue? We would really love to hear from you. We know that several members of the Nursing Now Challenge have had some wonderful opportunities. We were very lucky to be joined by the England CNO Duncan Barton at the Burdett Trust for Nursing and Nursing Now Challenge launch of the State of the World's Nursing Report. And actually at that launch event, he invited some of our members who are working in England to not only join but co-chair the working groups contributing towards the National Nursing and Midwifery Strategy. So we're hoping to hear from them shortly and share their experiences, because we know it's been a really wonderful opportunity and yeah, just such a great experience for them. And we also heard from our one of our hub leads from the Americas region, Tracy. She's actually based in Barbados, and she was recently invited to take part in a national strategy meeting. So much wonderful stuff happening, and hopefully more. I'm excited to hear from you all. But yeah, for now, I'm going to hand over to Shazia. I can see hands up and questions in the chat. If we don't manage to get to your question, because I know we don't have all that long left, please make sure you pop it in the chat or email us, and we'll be sure to send it over to Kerry and Bruna. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Shazia.
Thank you, Hannah. Hi, everybody. Okay, so we are now moving to the last part of our webinar, the Q&A session. So I can see there are a lot of questions in the chat box. So first of all, we're going to go with the hand raise. I think Markel have a question. Yes, Markel, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Markel, can you hear us? You have a hand raise.
Oh, João.
João Marcal.
Oh, it's me. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't recognize my name. Hi there. Hi. Thank you, Shazia. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Bruna. I've got a question for you, Bruna. It sounds like a lot has already been happening in the American region, and I was wondering whether there are any pitfalls or obstacles that those that have been pushing for policy dialogue that you have already encountered, and if yes, whether you have any suggestions on how to overcome those obstacles. And I'm thinking primarily in terms of bringing this idea to maybe national bodies or any organizations who are either not that familiar with nursing or who might have some resistance toward nursing, or any other organization with whom you've been trying to engage, but things might have not been as smoothly as we would have expected. Any of those obstacles, and if yes, any kind of suggestions on how we can overcome them and kind of learn from each other as well through that process. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, João, for your question. I believe that we do have some obstacles to implement and to develop this process, the policy dialogue process, and to use these things. And we have each country have their own challenge. Probably most of the time they don't have like enough resources to work in strategies to strengthen nursing workforce. Sometimes they don't have the autonomy to implement their actions. Sometimes they are not considered in the demand table in the decision make spaces. So overall, we have these main challenges. Even though sometimes we have like a leadership position, we have like a CNO position, we have the challenge sometimes that they don't have the resources, the autonomy, and they are not part in some decision make process. So our experience show us that to overcome these obstacles, we need to build strong alliances. So we have this evidence. We need to use this evidence as our foundation. So we are seeing that several nurses, several leaders are using these evidence to engage governments, to engage professional associations, the academia, in order to share their vision and to work to obtain more visibility and to set up like a realistic goal for their local context. So I do believe, and our experience in the region shows that we need to we need to establish a communication channel outside of nursing workforce. So it's important to talk to nurses. It's important to talk to our professionals, our workforce, our professional associations, our education programs. But we need to go beyond this nursing network. We need to talk to other professionals. We need to talk to the parliamentaries. We need to talk to other stakeholders that can influence and support us to work collaboratively in adapted solutions that are tailored for this context to ensure that these actions will be like effective and can change the situation and to face the main challenge that we have. So the intersectorial work is probably and just also this collaborative work, the intersectorial and these communication channels probably are the main key to overcome this challenge that we have in these actions, in this process, that dialogue, and also in the leadership position.
Okay, that's great. So we have few more questions in the chat box. I think Hannah, we have 3 more minutes. Shall we go with one more question and then the closing remarks? What do you think?
Yeah, I think let's take one more question. If anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask, and we'll share the rest via email.
Yeah.
So does anyone want to come in and ask Bruna a question?
Yeah, you can just unmute yourself and ask the question directly from the speaker. Okay, so I think we're going to go with the closing remarks. So we are ending the webinar with closing remarks from one of our NNC Hub
Hi,
lead,
hello.
Andreas.
There's one question, I think. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I am from Pakistan, basically. So in our country, there are significant barrier and challenge in supporting global nursing workforce.
Okay.
Particularly, we have issue, specifically availability of NCLEX testing center. That's the one main issue for our nurses to go abroad and to support globally workforce. And the second, the visa processing, we have find more difficulties. So is there any step currently in progress to address these issues for our countries?
I'm not sure if I got the question. If someone can help me, sorry.
I guess, Bruna, actually the question is there is no any NCLEX test center, the Pearson Review Test Center for the NCLEX exam. So he's asking there is no test center in Pakistan. There is one recently opened, but there are no more like test centers, which and
They are closed. The one already closed,
okay.
which is opening in Lahore. So that's facing, I think, it's in any kind of difficulties. So I think that is closed.
Okay, so I think the question is more related to the nurses who want to work abroad, like the global
Globally.
nursing
So we
workforce.
want
I mean, there are
to support
challenges.
global workforce. Yes. So there are challenges.
Okay,
So is
so
there any suggestion or any step progress regarding this issue?
Okay, so I believe that first of all, it's important to understand the global situation, the global health issues, and also the global health workforce issues. So, as I mentioned before, it's important to stay updated in the main documents, evidence, and information that we have in the national level, but also in the regional and the global levels. But also, it's important that I will talk specifically on the migration topic. So we are seeing that for our region, I don't know exactly the situation of the country that the participants make the question. But for our region, the migration, the international mobility for some countries are a challenge because countries invest to educate a professional, invest in their education, in their experience, and then they lose this professional to other countries. And also, there are some strategies to recruit this professional to take this professional for other countries that sometimes are not like ethical. So we are investing in strategies to support countries in bilateral agreements to ensure ethical and a fair recruitment of the professionals. So we do believe that countries need to work in these bilateral agreements in order to make the compensations that are needed especially in the low and middle income countries. So these countries, the low and middle income countries, in fact, are countries that are already suffering with the shortage of professionals. So we need to support them. We need to invest in this workforce in order to have a sustainable workforce. So I do recommend you to read, to learn more on the WHO Code of Practice. And there's also this document on the bilateral agreements for the migration and international mobility.
Thank you, Bruna. I think we are getting short of time, so Andres, you can continue with the closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sasha. I would like just to mention that for Tariq, I think the ICN, the International Council of Nurses, from time to time they do some reports, and there have been some reports related to the situation and these topics related to migrant people that want to immigrate to work abroad, or just well, how a country receives those nurses, and the ethical dilemmas also that there are. And I think Howard Catton and some of the people from the ICN have worked on that. So maybe it could be interesting for you if you also take a look on the webpage of ICN. Well, I will be very brief because I think we have already finished the webinar, and most of you are probably very, very busy. So I want to be very brief. And we all know that, well, part of the webinar and the most discussed topic has been on the shortages, on the problems with retention, and the shortages that we have from nurses, midwives, early care nurses, etc. It really depends on the country profile, but it's a global problem, a global situation. And one of the key highlights that I have heard in the meeting is that every country has their own data, every country has their own problems, even though everything is shared. So probably most of you, or at least this is my case, we would like to know, okay, so what can we do now, or what could I do as a nurse, as an early care nurse, or as a senior nurse for my country, or in this particular situation. And one of the key highlights that the speakers mentioned is that we should strengthen our data, our evidence base. We should network with other people, with organizations inside or outside the nursing profession. So let's talk with other people, because other people, policymakers, sometimes the stakeholders might not know, maybe they don't know what the real situation is. So those people, especially those early care nurses that are probably working in the bedside, know better than everybody what the challenges and situation are. So we should strengthen that data to allow the dialogue, to allow the collaboration between different organizations. And every priority should be driven with a national and country focus. Because even though these problems are shared, every country has their own situation. And I would like to encourage to continue having these spaces, these networks, to share the different situations, because even though we have our own situation, it's important to focus also on some other aspects, and to understand and to learn what the real situation is in other countries. There are some obstacles, as Joao asked, and Bruno shared with us. There are some obstacles, especially with people that might not know our situation. So let's engage with them. Let's engage online, but also presentially. Let's go and let's knock on the doors and ask them if they can collaborate, if they can do something together with us, with everybody. Let's participate, and let's try to continue having these spaces. So yeah, that could be all. Many thanks for the webinar. Many thanks to all the participants, and many thanks especially to Bruna and Dr. McCarthy. She's not with us now, but many thanks to her as well. Yeah, that could be all. You know that the National Challenge is a national organization where we advocate to have these spaces, especially for early career nurses and midwives. So I invite you on behalf of our organization to visit our webpage. Just stay tuned for other activities and initiatives that will be coming soon. Yeah, that could be all. I don't know, Hannah, if you want to say something more.
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much. I guess just to say we have an exciting global book club happening on the 10th of October. So stay tuned for more information about that. But thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Take care.